and welcome back to the Villa View for another discussion show where today we're joined by Kev Hughes and Patrick Harris alongside me and Dan Baldwell for today's episode. So upcoming on today, we're going to be discussing the departure of Gordon Cowans from the coaching setter, Jack Grealish's new deal, our summer transfer business, in particular transfer deadline day, and then finally discussing the magnitude of Nottingham Forest taking on Aston Villa in the Championship and how much of a big game it is for the Championship. So let's get into it, Dan, with first of all the departure of Gordon Cowans. Did this come as a shock to you? Because I know it did to me, and also you've seen him more than I have. I'm not trying to say anything about your age, but you have.
Kev's older than me. Obviously, I think he's been part of the academy and part of the coaching staff since '98. He's had a few stints with the first team as well under various interim managers. I think he was a first-team coach under McLeish as well. Obviously, he's given a lot of his life to Villa, including like a lot of his playing career as well. So I was a little bit shocked to see him go. But then the more I thought about it, he's 58 now, I think, and the fact that Steve Round's come in and has obviously got his own ideas, it would be unfair on Steve Round when we're trying to build something new for him to be maybe keeping people who he didn't fully want there, who weren't going to be there long term. So I can see why it's happened. Obviously, the other guys have gone with Cowans, but obviously Cowans is a bit more decorated at Villa than the other guys. It's sad to see him go, but if it is his choice and he wants to retire, then obviously we wish him all the best. But he's become part of the furniture at Villa, so it's really sad that he won't be there anymore.
Yeah, I think the same. It's not. There's also been a lot of change over the summer, and we probably didn't expect this change to happen. So he might still help out from time to time. You know, hopefully if that's true, that sounds fine. But yeah, obviously Steve's come in. He wants to change things quite a lot, and you know it's hard to do that if you've got the current setup there, I guess. So I suppose it makes sense if you think about it. And we've just got to lament the fact that Sid's not there anymore. We've got to appreciate he's been part of the club for what 35 years or so.
Patrick, obviously we're the younger two in here. There's no beating around the bush. So what did that, as a fan to you, what did you know about Cowans, obviously?
I've always been familiar with his name. I've always known that he's been a coach. He's done a lot of work with the youth academy, with the under-21s, obviously bringing through some good prospects over the years. And yeah, it's disappointing to see him leave, but you know, he's been at the club for so long, and it's been his decision to leave. He hasn't been forced out, and I think that was better to see than someone being forced out of the club. So yeah, I'm sad to see him go, but I'm glad that he's still going to be part of the club, and still I'm sure going to be at all the home games and probably a few of the away games as well.
So moving forward into the future, and somebody that could well go down potentially one day, not going to build him up too much, but in the future could go down as another Gordon Cowans legend at Villa, and that is Jack Grealish. Has got a new 4-year deal at the club, Kev. How important is this for him to have a new deal? Big statement of intent, could you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when we came out the back end of last season, I had a very, very short list of players I really, really wanted to see staying at the club. It kind of got shorter very quickly. It was Grealish, it was Jordan Amadi, it was Jordan Ayew, really. And those are the three that I really wanted us to keep. I expected Ayew to go. He stayed. So I'm delighted that, you know, that Jack has signed a new long-term deal. I wondered if he'd be tempted elsewhere. I'm sure there was interest, but to tie him down to 4 years is brilliant. And I think the way he started the season, you can see he really wants to get us back up into the Premier League. He started really well. He got a couple of goals, which is something that's perhaps been missing from his game, you know, a little bit. Although you know he didn't play an awful lot last year, so I think he started it really, really well. And it's a great statement. It's great to announce it. I think this early in the season, really good timing.
Patrick, you are Irish, I take it, from what I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
No hard feelings?
Well, you know what? I support Northern Ireland as much as I support Republic of Ireland. I was disappointed to see him choose England, but because he'd always been with the Republic. I thought he probably should have stuck with Ireland because he had been there, during his youth. So I was kind of disappointed in that respect. But I'm more of a Villa fan than I am a Republic or Northern Ireland fan. I sort of prioritise that Jack Grealish is going to give his best for Villa over whatever international team he's playing for. And to be honest, I think he's been our standout player so far this season. I'm so glad that he's matured and he hasn't been getting into back of papers and headlines And yeah, he's been good this season, and it's good to see that Di Matteo's obviously considering him as something that's going to be taking our team forward by, offering him a new contract.
Dan, do you think that Grealish has finally found his position, because he's been pushed all over the place under different managers, even at a young age? Do you think he's finally found his place where he is now?
I don't know whether he's found his position, because I don't actually think that playing left midfield is his best position. Obviously, he's coming inside a lot, and he's still probably playing in more of an attacking midfield rather than playing from the left. He's probably coming in from the left. But I think he's part of a better team now. I think a lot of people were judging him on what went on last season. Obviously, he did what he did in the summer, which wasn't ideal, but I think he's learned from that. He had a lot of injuries, so I don't think he ever really got a proper pre-season. He never really got going because of injuries. When he was coming in, he was coming into a poor team. He's come back this summer, and he looks fit, and he looks hungry, and he looks like he wants to do well for the club. And I don't think people have realised until yesterday, when he signed the new contract, how much he actually does love this club. And I believe that he truly loves Aston Villa, and I believe that he can be a mega part of our future. And if we're to go up, he will be one of the main reasons for that, because he's one of our most important players.
It'll be the story in a few years' time when hopefully we are a Premier League side and we are pushing up in the top end of the table, all being well with all the plans and whatever. And I think he'll be the one player that will be the mainstay, I hope. And he'll grow with the club, because I think I heard it the other day, I can't remember who it was saying, I think it might have been Nigel Spink, who said on BBC WM that Jack Grealish has got another gear. He just needs to find it, and he's unplayable in his day already, but once he's found that another gear, there's something extra special on top of what he's got, and hopefully we can see that. Every good player, like Jack Grealish, needs a team to go around it, and this summer we have been busy in the window, and more busy transfers on deadline day, Patrick, with Albert Adoma and Jonathan Codger signing. What do you think these players can add to us, and do you think we paid over the odds for Jonathan Codger?
I think it's a brilliant signing. Obviously, he gives you that other alternative over Gestede up front. He's got pace, and he's got probably a better finish than Gestede. I don't think he was really worth his price tag, if I'm going to be honest. 15 million is a lot of money to fork out on a player, that's only been playing in the Championship a season with Bristol City. So, but a brilliant signing, a better alternative in my opinion to Gestede. Gestede, really, if you're playing Gestede, you have to play a certain style of football. I think with Jonathan Codger, I think it would probably work well with McCormack and Grealish. The pace running at back four. So yeah, he does give us that other option to Gestede, which I think is going to be quite promising in the upcoming season. With Adoma as well, I haven't seen much of him, if I'm going to be honest. He's pretty much a like-for-like signing with Adama going another way. With Adama, he was kind of, in my opinion, quite one-dimensional. Every time he picked up the ball, he just pretty much ran at the defence. He was quick, but he didn't really have too much to his game. So I'm hoping that Adoma is, going to offer us more options in the wing and be a good player to bring around for this upcoming season with, the amount of games we have to play in comparison to what we had to play in the Premier League.
Do you think that it's a like-for-like replacement getting Adoma, and do you think we've actually got a better deal, perhaps? As daft as it may sound, Dan?
I agree with what Pat said, because really there is a like-for-like replacement to right wingers, but we've got rid of someone who's very raw, who is obviously, there's a good player in there, a lot of natural talent, but I'm not sure the mental side of his game is the best. But we've swapped someone who's raw and maybe not ready for first team football for someone who's proven in the Championship. I've got a mate who's a QPR fan, who's obviously seen a lot of Championship football, and he says that Adoma is one of the best players in this league. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And too much really in the past, we've relied on people who maybe aren't quite ready for first team football and ready for the league that we're in. I think this season we've righted some of those wrongs, because we've got people that are built for this league, and we've got people that are ready to perform in this league. So I'm looking forward to, now the whole squad's assembled, seeing what we can do.
I think it's been an excellent transfer window. I think the Championship, and probably any of the clubs in the Premier League, we've had more work to do than anybody else. We've got a new owner, we've got a new manager, new coaching staff. We've got, essentially a full squad that had to go. Was it 14 out, 9 in? So the best part of 25 transfer deals that we've had to do under a shorter summer with, the incoming owner. So I think we've done well. I think, as Dan said, we've signed players not on potential, and not really right. Not kind of in their 30s. Really kind of last chances. We've signed some players who have proven at that level. Some guys who've dropped out from the Premier League. I think I didn't expect us to be able to James Chester to drop down, or Jedinak to drop down with us. So I think we've done pretty well. We've overpaid for Kodja, I think, but everyone's overpaying for anyone. I think that's the market. That's obviously the fee that we were quoted. Kodja was linked back in June or July, and we've obviously other things haven't worked out, or we've realised that actually that's pretty good value. That's what we have to pay. If he gets 19 goals again in the Championship for us this season, then we won't be complaining. So yeah, I think we've done really, really well.
Any Villa fan that comes in and criticises that window is very, very unrealistic. I think that was as good a window, if not a lot better than anyone could have hoped for. We've sorted the squad out in the main, like you say. Maybe we could have done with another centre back, maybe another central midfielder. But the amount of work that's gone in, and it's not easy. The important thing that we've done as well is I think we've got the right kind of characters, because that was what has been missing at the club in the last few years. We haven't had enough characters, and I feel that in the dressing room now, it's a better place than it was this time last year, and that can only be good for us.
So the final topic is one that I've been wanting to talk about a lot. I said it on Twitter earlier today, and it got picked upon by quite a few people, quite a few angry people, and quite a few people that agreed with me. But Villa take on Forest this weekend, and to me, it is the biggest game to ever be played in the Championship. It's the first time ever in world football that two former Continental Cup winners have played each other in the second division of a domestic league. So do you agree with me that it is arguably, Kev, the biggest game? Or would you say that there's other arguably bigger games such as Villa Leeds, or some have said Leeds Newcastle?
Yeah, and the question of bigger clubs is always a hot one, isn't it? And Newcastle fans will say something, Leeds fans will say something, but I think, just in terms of that fact, two former European Cup winners playing in the second tier, that's a fact. So, it hasn't happened before at this level. So, yeah, I think that's quite a poignant thing to say, and I'm sure both sets of fans will reflect on that. It is, they are two pretty big clubs, certainly of the kind of the 80s and the 90s anyway, when they were both, towards the top of the football tree, really.
I think, like Kev said, it's two European Cup winners, and as you've said, that doesn't happen every day. I mean, I can see why people would argue against it purely because Forest have been in the second tier for a while now, but they are a big team. I mean, I think you could argue that Newcastle Villa is a bigger game on recent history, just because both clubs have been a big part of what is the biggest league in the world. The Villa Forest is massive. I imagine Villa Newcastle will be more fiercely contested because there seems to be a bit of a rivalry now. But you can't forget, this is a Midlands derby as well. So, and also one of the greatest footballers in the world has just joined Forest, Nicholas Bentner. So the game just keeps getting bigger.
I don't know if you consider Villa and Newcastle in recent times have been in the Premier League, so people consider them big clubs. But Forest back in the 80s, they won the European twice under Brian Clough. They were an incredibly successful club. So yeah, it's an incredibly big game. Newcastle fans, I think, always get annoyed when people would say Villa would be a bigger club. But if you look at trophies won, Villa compared to Newcastle in the last 60 years, you can't compare the two because Newcastle won absolutely nothing, and we won European Cups, First Division titles, FA Cups. So yeah, it's a huge game, and I mean it's a good thing for the Championship, I suppose. Looking
ahead to this game, how much is a win needed?
I feel like it's a bit early to say that it is a must-win, but we saw last season, if you lose a couple of games in a row, and it can spiral out of control. So obviously, if we lose on Sunday, that's 2 defeats on the bounce. We won't have won since Rotherham. I'm sure some of the moaners will start to come out at Villa Park, and a negative atmosphere may or could get created, which we don't want. We want to try and stay positive and get behind the players this year. But I wouldn't say it's a must-win, but I think at this stage it's a must-not-lose, definitely. But Forest are scoring a lot of goals. I know they're conceding
a lot as well.
But our problem has been we haven't been clinical enough when we've been on top, and if we're not clinical enough when we're on top on Sunday, I think we could get found out. As good as I think our defence is and will be, Forest have got a very good striker in Britta Sombolonga. They've got a good player in Henri Lansbury, so that we'll have a tough game on Sunday, no doubt.
I think if you look at the season so far, there's a pattern, isn't there? It's mostly, apart from the Wednesday game, the opening day of the season, really strong first halves where we've been on top of games. I mean, even Luton for the majority of that game, try and forget that match, but for the majority of it, we've been on top in the first half, and most of the time it hasn't. We haven't ended up getting the kind of the leads that we need. So I mean, Rotherham, fine. That was a strong night against Huddersfield. We really should have won that. We started well, a goal up, should have been more. Derby the same. Hit the woodwork twice, and Bristol City similar. So we've kind of not capitalised, and old cliche that a goal is never enough. One isn't, and we've been found out in the second half. So, I would hope that we can learn a bit from that. We can actually, we are creating plenty of chances, and McCormack in particular is creating loads of great chances. So, we do need to be a bit more clinical. Hopefully, with Adoma in, with Codger involved, I'd expect we've got that cutting edge, and if we can get ourselves into that dominant position, hopefully all will be well. But I mean, Forest, I know they've lost Burke, but they are 7th, the same points as Newcastle, same as Bristol City, so they've had a decent start. I think it's 1 win in 5 so far this season. We've got to the stage where it is early, but we've got to start putting together little runs of 2s and 3 wins on the bounce to climb that table. So I'm hoping for a strong start again, but maybe not just a goal up or so. I'm really trying to be clinical and put the game out of Forest reach, or else, as Dan said, I think they can come back and bite us.
As well, definitely not the second half we saw against Bristol City. Pat, on the notes of this game as well, defensively we've looked fairly solid, but this is surely their biggest test so far, as they've both touched on British Sonblonga is a huge asset the Forest managed to keep hold of. But a few Forest fans have said that without Oliver Burke, they've lost the sort of like the link-up, the player that creates the chances that Sonblonga has been putting away so far. So Sonblonga is obviously the main threat for us, but do you think our defence is strong enough now with the additions that we've got in there?
Yeah, we've got a really strong defence. I think it's just going to take time for the defence to gel together and build up good partnerships in the defence. You can't underrate Forest's attack now, even though Oliver Gray's away to the Bundesliga. They've still got terrific players, and they'll definitely cause a threat to our defence. I think 5 points really doesn't reflect how we played so far this season. We've had good patches in matches, but we haven't been able to keep that consistent for 90 minutes. I don't know why, but hopefully this season, or hopefully in this game, we'll be able to get the 3 points, because I think we really need to get 3 points on the board.
Selection headache as well, though. Now we've got Adoma in. Who do you start in that 3? Because that's how Dimito's been playing. He's been playing with the 3 and then the leading striker. We're assuming the leading striker up top will obviously be Codger. So who do you play as that 3 across?
If Grealish is fit, then I think he has got a selection headache. So I'm not sure which one of those 3 you wouldn't play. I certainly wouldn't be taking Ayo out. I know he's had his critics this season, but I think just because he hasn't got a smile on his face doesn't mean he hasn't been putting it in. I think he's been better than his goal tally, certainly, and assist tally suggests. I think he's putting a good shift for the team. But I think if Grealish is out, that'll be the front 3, the 3 behind the strikers.
Kev, can I get a prediction from you for Sunday's game?
Yeah, I think I'll go for Villa win, because I think there's a good buzz around the place at the moment. First game after the window's closed, Codger hopefully starting, Adoba involved, I'm sure, at some point. Hopefully Jack will be fit. So I'll go 2-1 Villa.
2-1 Villa. Hopefully no keeper mistake. Yeah, 3 points.
And that's a poll we'll get on the Twitter as well about the idea of is Forest Villa the biggest ever game in the Championship. We'll get that on a poll so you can vote in that as well. That is all though for today. Thanks for joining me today, Pat.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
As well, thank you to Kev for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed that. Good luck on Sunday all.
And then finally, of course, Dan Bardell. Can't forget you.
Thank you.
So that is all for today's discussion show. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you drop us a like below, commenting what you thought about the guys' opinions, especially the big talking point, which is about the Forest game and how big a game that is. But that is all for the Villa View today.